The shepherds in our Christmas story are forever nameless. Their roles have been filled throughout history by a rotating cast of children in Christmas pageants, dressed in potato sacks, wearing headbands. There's very little that we know about the shepherds, aside from their initial terror and then subsequent amazement. The Christmas story, the Christmas announcement, is a great interruption to whatever the shepherds had been doing beforehand. That is, keeping watch over their flocks of sheep by night. This is what they must have been doing night after night after night after night. And maybe it even went deeper than that. I'm a shepherd. My father was a shepherd. My grandpa was a shepherd. My son will be a shepherd. This is our family. This is what we know. This is what we do. We are shepherds. How do you connect with people who are used to doing one thing, who are set in their ways, who are shepherds who just watch sheep every night? It's a question Christianity has been asking itself for years and years and years, evangelical as we are. We want to connect with other people, and we want to share the good news of Christ's birth, and we want it to matter, but that's become increasingly difficult because almost everyone has heard some variation of this faith. My great-grandpa really believed in it. He never missed church. My grandpa believed in it. He rarely missed church. My dad kind of believed in it. Sometimes he missed church. I don't really believe in it. I never go to church. Such has been the trajectory of the Christian faith in our country. You can see this in all the trends. It's in steady decline. Churches like this, mainline Protestantism, who knows where we'll be in 50 years? So, how do we keep a church going? Maybe it starts with kids. We need to pass the faith on to our children. And sometimes the easiest way to parent is just to tell your kids what you want them to do. Go to church, sit still, sing along, learn the hymns, do it, do it, do it, do it. Doesn't really work. Or we need to bring people in from the outside who've never been here before. And maybe we need to take the pulse of culture and figure out what is popular out there and then bring that in here, and maybe that will make a church grow. There are some churches that do that, and they're pretty big, but focusing so much on other people or telling other people what to do, especially your kids, however well-intentioned it may be, doesn't always work. And I wonder if we do it, or at least I do it, because it allows me to avoid looking in the mirror. What's the old expression? Do as I say, not as I do. So it's sort of easy to tell your kids what to do, but it's difficult to model it for yourself. I've been reading my uncle's memoir, I suppose. It's not published or anything. Just some musings that he's put together as an 82-year-old man reflecting on his childhood. He's a retired minister, and his dad was a minister, and his dad's dad was a minister, and so on and so forth. He writes that when the family was growing up in Wyoming, every night after supper, all 7 kids would sit on the couch with their papa, that was their dad, and they would read Bible stories. And this was on top of going to church school every day, attending worship every Sunday. And I think about that scene, a family together exploring the wonders of Scripture, but maybe even more importantly, being together on a couch and having all those wonderful memories come together. And I think about how much different that is than simply saying to my kids, do this, do this, do this. Or when it comes to other people and inviting them here. We can focus on their needs, their desires, while neglecting maybe our own disillusionment or boredom while we are here. So we might want a church to keep going, but we might not really want to make the investments or do the work ourselves. It's easier to just focus on other people than to take our own pulse. This Christmas story about the shepherds and the angels is the first instance we have of someone sharing the good news about the coming of Christ. So maybe this can function as something of a model for how we might share this good news or any good news with someone else. So what do these angels, the first evangelists, how do they approach the shepherds? Do they first do deep research on what the shepherds are up to so they can understand what the shepherds might need and talk to the shepherds on their terms? That might be wise, it might work, but they don't do it. They just appear in a blaze of glory, bright lights, and they terrify the shepherds. And at first the shepherds are very overwhelmed by it, but then the angels reassure them that they're bringing good news, and they give them good directions where to find Christ. It seems like the starting place for evangelism in this story is the brightness, the enthusiasm, the glory of the angels. So maybe if we focus on that, it can give us a model for how faith might move us and in turn move the people around us. So then the question is, how is your faith? How do you feel about being here? I'm not trying to reprimand any of you. You all get gold stars for being here this morning. We had 3 times or 4 times as many people here last night, but you're here this morning. That's wonderful. But it's a good question, and it's a fair question. How does your faith feel? And if it's running low, maybe it's not your fault. Maybe it's because you haven't had someone to model love and enthusiasm to you. You haven't had a guide for faith that you can look to, a bright light that can light your way. This is what the shepherds get from the angels. Who knows if the shepherds were ever even thinking about God or looking forward to the coming of Christ? Maybe they were just doing the same thing they do every day. Those shepherds, you're never going to get them to come to church. They just work too much. And then they see the angels. They see this bright light, and they have to follow it. I've come to the conclusion in my own life that I'm not independent enough or smart enough to appreciate something by myself. When I'm in a museum looking at great works of art, or if I'm sipping a glass of nice wine, or reading a legendary piece of literature and I'm all by myself, I think, this is it? But if I'm in the presence of a master, someone who can hold my hand and explain to me what I might look for in that piece of art, what I might taste in the wine, what themes and beautiful words are coming together in that piece of literature. If I can be around someone who does this for me, it changes everything. Their light transforms my experience and makes me engage with the object in a different way than I ever could before. My family and I opened presents last night. I remember when I was little, I always thought, how can Christmas be any fun for adults? They hardly get any presents. And this was true last night too. Fred and Kel and Walter got a lot more presents than me and Holly. But even though I'm an adult, it was still fun. And it was fun because I saw them unwrap present after present after present, and most of them came from the Goodwill, but they didn't care. They said, look at this toy or trinket or piece of clothing. And it inspired their enthusiasm, and it was infectious, and it made me love Christmas too. How much the experience of another person changes your experience with them. And what is falling in love but this? You aren't sure how you feel, and then someone that you're with shares a feeling about you that you never could come up with yourself. And you think, you love me that way. I can be loved. I will love you back. That's the experience of God in this world, the experience of incarnation. Maybe it's the experience of us here Sunday after Sunday after Sunday, unwrapping these presents, these stories, this love of Jesus. And if it makes our faces shine, if it brings lightness to us, maybe people will just happen to stop by this place, see our faces glowing, and wonder, tell me about this good news of great joy that I can see on your face. Tell me so I can feel that way too. This Christmas, this faith journey, this life, let us look to the exuberance of the angels and the shepherds and our children and the people who love us to change our lives. And let us trust that this love will be contagious and that people will experience it in us when they come here, and they will come too. Merry Christmas.